What is jazz? Is it a rhythm, a feeling, a rebellion, or is it something deeper, something that can't quite be written down? Jazz is all of these things and more. It is America's most original art form, born from struggle, shaped by innovation, and carried forward by generations of musicians who dared to improvise. To understand jazz, we have to go back to New Orleans at the turn of the 20th century. A city alive with cultural collision, African rhythms, European harmonies, Caribbean influences, blues, ragtime, and spirituals. Out of this melting pot came something new. Jazz was born not in concert halls, but in the streets, in dance halls, in bars. It was music made by people, for people. And improvisation became its heartbeat. Musicians didn't just play the notes, they conversed, they responded to each other in real time. Jazz wasn't about perfection as much as it was about expression. So, what makes something jazz? It's not just a genre, it's also an approach. At its core, jazz is defined by a few key elements. First, improvisation. The art of creating music in the moment. No two performances are ever quite the same. Second, the swing, a rhythmic feel that makes the music move, something you don't just hear but feel in your body. Syncopation, unexpected accents and rhythms that break away from strict patterns. Interaction, jazz is a conversation. Musicians listen to each other and respond and then build together. And perhaps, most importantly, freedom. Jazz allows musicians to bend rules, reinterpret melodies, and push boundaries. So, let's dig into some history. By the 1920s, jazz had spread across America. This was the jazz age. Big bands filled dance halls, swing music dominated the airs, and jazz became the soundtrack of a generation. Cats like Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong were hugely popular. It was energetic, joyful, and escapist. But beneath the surface, it was also sort of revolutionary, breaking racial barriers and reshaping popular culture. But then came a shift. The 1940s and 50s, jazz moved from the dance floors to listening rooms. Musicians like Charlie the Bird Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, or Max Roach began experimenting, playing faster, more complex music. This was the birth of bebop. It wasn't designed for dancing, it was designed for listening, for thinking. Jazz became more intellectual and more daring. And soon, new styles emerged. Cool jazz, subtle and restrained, hard bop rooted in blues and gospel, modal jazz exploring new harmonic possibilities. Each style pushed the boundaries of what jazz could be. In the 1960s, jazz became even more experimental. Free jazz broke away from traditional structures altogether. Ornette Coleman, Cecil Taylor, John Coltrane, and Sun Ra pioneered a sound of pure expression. Musicians abandoned fixed chord progressions and predictable rhythms altogether. The music became raw, emotional, unpredictable. At the same time, jazz began blending with other genres like rock, funk, or Latin music. And this fusion opened new doors and new audiences. Jazz was no longer confined, and it went global. Today, jazz continues to evolve as a living art form. It lives in small clubs and on major festivals, in classrooms and online platforms. It influences hip-hop, R&B, electronic music, and beyond. Modern artists like Niels Peter-Mulva or the late Esbjörn Svensson or cats such as the Lund Quartet, but also Julian Lage or so many others draw from its history while pushing it forward. Jazz is not frozen in time. It adapts and it grows. So why does jazz still matter? Because it teaches us something essential: to listen, to adapt, to take risks. Jazz is about individuality, but also about collaboration. It reminds us that structure and freedom can coexist, that mistakes can become something beautiful, and that creativity thrives in the unknown. So, in closing, jazz began as a voice for the unheard, a way to express joy, pain, resistance, and hope. And more than a century later, it's still speaking. The question is, are we still listening?